mentioned it before, is how did you get into coaching? Is it
Yeah,
something that you already brought it? There was somebody that you looked it up to, and
yeah.
I don't know.
So it was probably it's probably about 11 years ago at this stage. I am 40 this year, so it's probably coming up to 30. And from my experiences of just working with people, a lot of people will have their younger part of their life whereby you go to school, maybe you go to college, get a job, do a
Yeah,
trade, whatever it might be, and then you work for maybe 4, 5, 6 years. For some people, they'll love it. They'll go, oh, yeah, that's amazing. I want to stay doing this for the rest of my life. For other people, when they get around their 30th birthday, they start to reflect and go, okay, do I really want to be doing this for the rest of my life?
right.
And for quite a few people, the answer is no. So they go, no, it was nice. And maybe I thought this was the career path I wanted to go down, or maybe I chased money. And then I realized after a while, money wasn't it. It wasn't the be all and end all. I need to get a bit of fulfillment. So I was kind of at that time frame myself where I was coming up to 30 and I was like, okay, I have a reasonably good job. I know in warning corporate America, and I know that I can be good in this space, I can make money in this space, and I can be successful. But I was kind of going, I don't think this is it, like, because there's an element of it that it's a game and you have to play the game if you want to be really successful. And I was going, okay, do I really want to play the game at that level? So I started to look around more out of curiosity than anything else. And I was just like, okay, I wonder what else is out there. Like, what other kind of stuff could people do? So I always played sport and I had an interest in sport, and I kind of looked at sports psychology and I looked at a few other different areas. And I also kind of looked at the whole construction area. That was quite big in Ireland back then. But I realized, so coaching per se, the kind of personal and executive coaching or performance coaching, wasn't really that big back then. So there was only probably in my city alone, there was maybe 2 people I knew that were doing it. So I started to read a little bit about it and I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I reached out to one of the guys in my city that was doing it. And I said, can I meet you for a coffee and just have a chat about this? And he said, yeah, no problem. So I sat down and had a chat with him for about an hour. And I was like, Jesus, man, this is interesting. Like, this is stuff I need for me right now, because it was around developing your confidence, getting clarity around where you're going, having some career structure and goals for yourself.
Yeah.
So initially I was like, shit, I'm just going to start applying this stuff to myself and where I'm at right now. And then I could see it making kind of subtle differences. It wasn't like I woke up one day and I was like, oh, everything has changed. But people around me were like, geez, man, yeah, you seem to be a lot more positive. I can see you're getting a little bit more confident. So just through kind of initially reading and applying stuff, I was like, yeah, this is definitely it for me. So because I was working full time, I was like, okay, if I want to do this, what I'll do first is I'll do a course and I'll see then what I think of it. So I did a diploma course in personal and executive coaching. And after I did that course, which took maybe 9 months, I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is really interesting. So then I started to coach some people.
And I can interrupt you there, and I think it's really important, John, what you're saying about coaching, because people that are not much into like really like real training, I'll say in a way, or people think as a coach, as a personal trainer only, that is going to give you these kind of exercises and guide you in the gym or guide you in the park or something. But coaching is something else, isn't it?
Yes.
And that is a big difference that I think has to be clear, because
absolutely. Yeah. So like when I started
mixture all that up, kind of.
Yeah. So like when I started to do this first, which is going back probably the bones of 10 years ago, when you say to people, I'm a coach, you say, oh, you're a personal trainer. And I said, no, it's not for fitness. It's for your business, or it's for your confidence. It's for around your performance. And I suppose then they'd say, oh, you're like a counselor, or you're a psychologist. So like, do I sit on a bed and like tell you about my childhood? And I'm going, no, fuck, it's not either. No, it's like, so a lot of what counseling does would be looking backwards, and there's generally something in your past that was traumatic that a counselor will delve into and help you to overcome the emotions and then move on. So it's almost like for counseling, you'd start at -100, and then a counselor will try to bring you up to 0. And then you can just take it from there. Whereas a coach generally will find somebody who's at maybe -10, maybe it's 0. And then you're saying, okay, what comes next? So it's very much future focused, whether it's for your business or whether it's for you individually to say, okay, I'm a little bit lost. I don't know where I'm going. I don't really have clarity, but
it's guiding you through your progress, isn't it?
yes, absolutely. Yeah, completely.
But what you are trying to do basically in basic words is trying to make a better person. Maybe.
Yes, I suppose, like, from going to, I'll just bring it back slightly and then I'll bring it up to then. So just to bridge the gap. So it got to a point whereby I'd done a lot of training. I'd spent a lot of money, a lot of time getting myself to a point where I felt like I had a good enough skill set to do this full time. So then at a certain point, it's like, okay, if you want to really commit to this, you have to take a leap, and you can't be just doing this part time. You need to do it full time. So I made a decision about 5 years ago to say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is the career I want to have. I've coached a lot of people now. I've gotten some experience. So I took a leap. And for the first couple of years, it's quite good, because when you work for a company, you know you're getting X amount of money every month. And then if you work in sales, you know once a quarter, you're going to get a big fat paycheck with all your commission. You're going to go, oh,
we know that.
Yeah, we know that. So that's an incentive to work in that kind of point. But when you work for yourself, that doesn't come. So for the first couple of months, I was like, oh, this is a novelty. I can go and drink coffee and meet my friends. And then you think like you're working, but you're not. Like, you're not actually working at all. You're not generating any sales. You're not getting any new clients. And I remember I did my first tax return, because I had some money anyway. I had some money built up. So I kind of was going to use it as a cushion. And I did my first tax return. And I think I made, for the first year that I was doing this, something like 8,000 euros. And I was like, what, for a whole fucking year? I used to get that in a month. Like when I was in my last job, I was like, I got this for a whole year. But it was funny because you kind of, as you're working along, you kind of think, oh yeah, I'm busy and I'm doing stuff. But then when you see the figures in front of you on black and white, you're like, oh man, you need to cop on. Because like at the start, it's nice. It's almost like a hobby because you have a full-time job. But then you're going, this is your job now. Like, you need to take this seriously. It's not just a hobby anymore, or it's not something you go and meet your friends for coffee or meet people in business for coffee and you think you do. So I was like, okay, if you're doing this, you got to take this seriously. So from that point on, then I kind of had to start treating it more like a business than just this thing I did that was a bit of a thing on the side, because I was like, okay, if you want to buy a new car, you want to go on a nice holiday, you want to do anything, this has to come from this now, not from something else. So at that point then, which is probably about 4 years ago, I started to put more structure around it, and I started to be a bit more strategic around, okay, what am I going to do here? What kind of work do I want to do? What kind of people do I want to work with? And I was doing bits and pieces of work with a guy, Brian, who I mentioned, who's in the business with me in Performance Nerds now. So probably about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, we started to put together some offerings for corporates. So it was a mixture of training and coaching. So primarily around leadership, and then quite a bit around performance management and performance development as well. And then I suppose we just got 1 or 2 clients at the start. And then on the back of getting some big logos, like we got into 1 or 2 big companies at the start. People are like, well, geez, these guys must be serious. If they're working with this company, they must know what they're at. So then that kind of helped to escalate it. So it's just getting the first 1 or 2 is the hardest. But I found once we got 1 or 2, and then we got some testimonials from them to say, yeah, these guys are good. You should probably bring these guys in, whether it's working with people one-on-one or whether it's working right across the organization or with specific teams in a company. That's kind of how we got it going. But it's, the first, so the first few was hard.
When it came from being that hobby to a kind of your full-time job, then how you apply it? You apply it to companies, you apply to you apply to companies, and there's something else in there apart from the companies that you applied it, or people, like a specific association, or
so there's probably a couple of areas. So at the start, I would have done quite a lot of work around developing confidence. One of the areas I did a lot of work in was specifically in confidence. So sometimes it was executives in business all the way up to CEOs. Other times it was just ad hoc people who felt like in their life or in their career, they weren't feeling as confident as they wanted to be, or they felt like they had more ability, but they just couldn't get it out. So that was kind of one of my areas of focus at the start. And I kind of